Hey guys, welcome back to Mojo Homestead. I am standing here in front of our compost pile, which is kind of appropriate considering what we're going to be talking about today. If you guys watched our weekend video, you kind of already know what we're going to be talking about today, and that is fertilizer. Making your own. Now, disclaimer, I will tell you that we are brand new at this. I've done a little bit of research, and this is definitely like our first attempt at it, so we're experimenting with it. But I wanted to make this video not because I'm like a professional behind all this and know exactly what I'm doing, but to encourage you guys to maybe look at doing the same. I don't think it comes as any surprise that fertilizer is becoming a little bit pricey, and it's only going to go up. With me being in landscaping, I hear a lot about these prices and what's coming and what's expected. And the news is doing a pretty good job of covering it too. But fertilizer is only going to go up, which in turn means that food costs are going up, grain is going up, animal feed is grain, which means that's going up. So everything is going up. Now this is not a video to try to scare you into anything or manipulate you into anything. Cass and I are really big on not wanting to do that. But the reality in today's world is things are not getting cheaper. And this year, honestly, I believe food is going to be a real difficulty, whether that be financially, whether it be just scarcity, whatever it may be. Unfortunately, again, just being realistic, this is all because of last year's effect on the fertilizing industry. If you've been keeping up with the news and you've been watching, you know we're pretty much in kind of like a economic world war. One of the things that Russia did, I think it was just last week, they decided to fight back by saying we're not going to be exporting any more fertilizing products. That may not seem like a big deal, but Russia actually provides a very large percentage of a lot of those products that go into fertilizing, which just means those costs are continuing to go up. And that's getting passed to the farmers, which then gets passed on to us. So enough about all of that. That's just a little bit of a background of why I wanted to cover this. I'm not trying to make a political statement or anything, so I'm going to move on from that. That's why we started looking into how we can help to start supplementing some of that stuff, because like I said, it's also affecting the animal feed, the grain that we give our animals. We have already started looking at possible alternative resources for that, but we're still trying to look into that. Fertilizer is the one thing that we are really focusing on now heading into the gardening season. So last year we did use rabbit manure. What we did is just put like a small handful down in the bottom of all the holes that we dug for our vegetables and let them go to town. It made a world of difference. I was very, very excited about what that did. But this year, I want to look at trying to come up with a more complete fertilizer. Now, you may know this about fertilizer. If you're a gardener, you probably do. But all fertilizer is going to be marked with 3 numbers. This one is a 434. And there's some others that are different ratios. What that means is it's the percentage of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, sometimes called potash. All of these things are very important. These are your macro ingredients in the fertilizer, meaning they're the main nutrients that all plants need. So nitrogen promotes growth and healthy growth. Phosphorus promotes pretty much everything. It's a good all-around one. It promotes root growth. It's a good one for just greening up growth, and also for flowering, which in turn means a good fruit set. Potassium is going to be more of your flowering and fruit set. Also helps with that root growth as well. So we are working on this year, trying to find that balance and what works for us, and even how to apply it. So straight rabbit manure, is about a 2-1-1 ratio as far as fertilizer goes. Now, the reason that rabbit manure is better than like goat manure, which is another cold manure, meaning you can put it on it directly without it burning your plants, or even broken down cow manure, horse manure, all these things, is rabbit manure is actually higher in a lot of these macronutrients. The number just means the percentage in it, and so the higher the percentage, the less you have to use. It's more about like the ratio between all three of those numbers rather than how big of a number that is. There are a couple of micronutrients that are really important, especially in a vegetable garden, that you've got to have. And that's one thing that if you're just using straight like rabbit manure or manure, then you may not be getting. A lot of those micronutrients, we're going to rely on this compost behind us. Compost is a great way to get in a lot of those things without stressing too much about it. We put it in the garden every year. We kind of top dress with it, mix it in a little bit to the top layer, and go from there. Now, compost does add a lot of nutrients back into the soil, so it's a great resource, a great thing to use. However, for us, we don't really have enough to like really put a lot down over our entire garden, especially this year with us expanding. Actually, this year, all of this compost is probably just going to go to the expansion part of the garden and not have enough to do the entire garden. Well, the biggest thing we're using it for is to build our soil. We're still kind of working on that. The main part of the garden, it's getting pretty good. Before I get into how we are going to start attempting to make our own fertilizer, if you guys are liking this, give it a thumbs up. We really do appreciate that. Make sure you leave a comment. If you're already making your own fertilizer type mix or compost tea that also is a fertilizer, let us know. I want to know what you guys are doing. I also want to know how it's worked for you, because like I said, we're new at this and I'm just trying to get this out here to really bring you guys along in our process of learning this stuff, and also to just, hey, we'll throw it out there and encourage you guys to do the same. Subscribe if you have not already. We appreciate all of you who have already subscribed and follow us and keep up with us. It's just a huge encouragement to us, and we really do appreciate every single one of you. That being said, let's get into what we are doing and how we are getting in those micronutrients. What we are thinking is we're going to definitely use the rabbit manure as our main component. And then probably adding in some wood ash, which is really where that potassium, and sometimes you'll see potash listed, comes from, because originally that's what it was. They just used wood ash for that, because wood ash is high in potassium. One thing you got to watch with that though is it also has a lot of carbon in it, which will neutralize the nitrogen, and in a compost pile will really prohibit everything breaking down the way it's supposed to. It can also, if you put too much in there, rob the soil of nitrogen, which then means you've depleted the soil and the plants of nitrogen, one of the main things that they need. So got to be careful with that one, but I'm thinking we're going to add some in there just to beef up that potassium level in the fertilizer that we're going to be attempting to make. The other thing that we really feel like we need to get in our soil because of last year's results is calcium. Calcium will prevent blossom end rot, which is a common problem, or can be a common problem, in tomatoes and melons and some of those other like cucumbers and any of those in that like melon and cucumber family. We did have a problem with that on our melons last year, especially. Not so much our tomatoes, but more so the melons. So we definitely want to get calcium in there. The way we're doing that is eggshells, which that's what everybody does, right? You know that it's eggshells. Well, it's got to be accessible. And by accessible meaning, if you just put in eggshells down there, it takes a long time for them to break down, that calcium to actually disperse. What we do is we bake the eggshells in the oven, and it makes them really, really brittle. And then you can blend them down in a food processor into a powder form. And this will make that calcium in there way easier for those plants to be able to access and get into the soil. So that is what we are going to do. Once we do that, we'll combine it with the other stuff and we'll have our fertilizer. I am thinking that we will probably attempt to do like a fertilizer tea, like a liquid fertilizer during this first go round, and we'll see how it works, see where it goes from there. It's all an experiment, right? I may mix up some and just send it into our extension and get them to test it just to see where we're at on all of those things, and maybe try to get a little bit more control of it by doing that. But like I said, that's how we're making our fertilizer. Our main ingredients that we're going to start with in trying to fine tune and everything like that will come down the road are going to be the rabbit manure, a little bit of wood ash, and eggshells. Now there are some other micronutrients that you need to have in your garden for your plants to be the most robust that they could possibly be. But that's where that compost comes in, and that's where I'm relying on that to be able to really supply a lot of those micronutrients. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you are having a great week. We got some rain here this week, so that was good, but we avoided all of the severe storms, which was a bonus, a plus. So our thoughts and prayers go out to all of those who may have, had a lot of that severe weather, had some of those tornadoes that came through. It's a very unfortunate part of the turn of the seasons as you get some of that volatile weather, but here we fared very well and got some rain out of it, so that's good. But again, go out there, start looking for alternative ways to feed your garden, and I would even say alternative ways outside of or above and beyond the composting and all of that stuff. But bottom line is, just get out there, just grow something this year. I feel like that's so important this year. I mean, we've been saying that for the past few years, but this year especially, so important. Get out there, grow something, grow your own food, and help supply your family and give your grocery budget a little bit of breathing room. But guys, have a great week and be blessed.